Ladies and gentlemen, let me call this meeting of the House Public Safety Homeland Security Committee to order. Today we're all in luck. We only have one bill. And before we start, I want to thank the committee members that were able to attend yesterday's meeting. I understand that you all got good reviews in cyberspace about your diligence and patience of listening to all the testimony yesterday. But that being said, we have today House Bill 316 by Representative Pruitt.
Is it on now? Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. I appreciate you allowing me to come before you today. House Bill 316, which is LC 335011. And this is, we say it all the time. I wish I had a dollar for every time I've heard it, that this is a simple bill. This bill, it actually, at the current time, when a vessel is abandoned, the information has to be collected by DNR, but it has to be shared with the GBI. So, and if a individual wants to find out information about that abandoned vehicle, the GBI has to be included in all the information. They have to go to DNR to get all their information. And basically it's redundancy, and we're just reducing the redundancy and making government smaller by taking the GBI out of the process and leaving it totally in the DNR. And frankly, I think if DNR had thought about this first, they'd have probably dumped it on GBI. But because it's, in reality, I think it's all about lack of funding. But that's simply what we're doing, Mr. Chairman. Be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions? Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking in here, and I have not been able to find it. What if there's a lien holder on the vessel? And is there any protection for a lien holder on an abandoned vessel?
This has nothing to do with this, madam. It's basically just saying if you need information, you go strictly to the DNR rather than have to come to the GBI. The GBI has no way of keeping records, any way to make files on an abandoned vehicle. So the DNR would be your location to go to get information, not to, the DNR would be where you go to get information, not the GBI. And that's the only thing that's changing.
Okay, it's not disposing of or penalizing or anything. It's just where to go to get the records and where the information would be.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? I noticed that there's Ms. Taylor.
Is someone from DNR here to speak? Do they want this new task? Who's on what side? Thank you.
All right. Colonel.
Good afternoon. Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Weaver with DNR. Yes, we support this bill. It's a good cleanup and less redundancy on the public. So, yes, we do support it. Thank you.
Hold on in case we have some other questions. Number, who'd that be down there?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Madam Sweet Mate.
Representative Pruitt, you know I couldn't let you come in this committee without me saying something to you.
I did expect it. I did.
Thank you. So the need for this bill is because it's a redundancy of services.
That's correct.
And we're streamlining.
That's true.
So what is the cost savings?
I have no idea other than that GBI will not have to spend whatever they've been spending to go to the DNR, and it will save DNR money because they don't have to dig up all the information and provide it to the GBI. They'll only provide it directly to the individual who contacts them. I do not know the dollar value of that.
Thank you, Representative Pruitt.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Mike, you want to? All right. Any other questions from the committee? I notice that you have an amendment.
Actually, I think someone's going to offer a friendly amendment.
Well, who would Who would that be that has brought a, who is that that has brought a handwritten amendment that hadn't gone through the lead council?
Mr. Chairman, you didn't know about the amendment?
No. Do you want to be addressed? Would you like to address the author, Mr. Green?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, the Department of Natural Resources wants to make sure that this bill is perfected like you always like for the bills to be perfected. And so I would like to offer this amendment to Representative Pruitt's bill, House Bill 316. And I think everyone has a copy of the amendment now. And what it says in the code section 52-7-7 said it states that DNR will provide a vessel purchaser with a certificate of title free of liens and encumbrances. And if we could, what they want to do is strike that word title there and put number. And as we were discussing a while ago, I think that's the reference that you use for the boats. Instead of title, you use
That is correct.
the number there.
And Mr. Chairman, I do apologize. This came up just 15, 20 minutes ago, and but I do think it's a friendly amendment that while we have this code section open, it would clean up a little bit of wording that needs to be done.
Mr. Green, you finished?
As the rest, yeah, as you can see throughout the section there, at the proper time we'll offer this particular amendment, Mr. Chairman.
All right, at the proper time. Ms. Taylor. This one finished.
Got it? Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just looking at some grammatics here, and it may or may not make a difference, but if you look down where it says, any such purchase, this is an amendment, by the way, any such purchaser may obtain a certificate of, if it was title, it would be certificate of title. But since we're striking title, then we should also probably strike of, and certainly would just say obtain a certificate number. Would that?
That's pretty good coming from Henry County.
Thank you.
That was a compliment.
Representative Pruitt, just a point of clarification, if you don't mind, Clayton County. But we do own Henry.
I apologize.
That's okay. But we own Henry. Yeah. No.
Any other questions? May I ask, Colonel, looking at this amendment, because not that I'm suspicious of the possible author of this, but I usually get a little suspicious when an amendment floats through that has not gone through legislative council. This amendment is dealing with would be dealing with a craft that has been abandoned and then sold by the courts as an abandoned vehicle, or excuse me, as an abandoned craft.
Could be either just abandoned and someone wants to take possession, or it's abandoned and someone wants to sell it. Correct.
So right now, somebody abandons a boat.
Right.
On, let's just use Lake Hartwell since that's near and dear to me. And it's been laying around, or it's been floated up in the cove, and nobody has laid claim to it. What is the process?
Now, with this passage, they would call DNR directly. We would research, see if it's currently registered. If not, then there's a process to go through, advertising in the local paper, trying to find the legal owner, and then at the end of that process, they would be issued certificate of number, take possession.
And a certificate of number is what, the registration number?
That's the registration, yes, sir. We don't issue titles. our process is registration numbers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a point of clarification on the amendment to the amendment. In department, do y'all refer to it as certificate of number?
Yes, sir. Could be either way. Certificate of number, which is a registration in our terms.
Okay.
Registration
Well,
number.
just for the purposes of amending the amendment, if that was the will of the chairman of the committee, just want to make sure if y'all are referring to it as certificate of number, then I would recommend that we leave it the way, if that's the language y'all normally use, but whatever the will of the committee is.
Should that not read issuance of a registration number? DNR registration number?
DNR registration.
What is the proper language?
Yes.
It's not a certificate, is it?
It's a registration number.
Mr. Glanton.
You say you use a certificate of number. Do you also use certificate number?
No, sir. It would be a unique registration number for each vessel.
Okay. So then So would you prefer us to leave the certificate of number out and leave certificate of in? Would that be consistent with the way you're doing business now?
Yes, sir. I think that's fine.
Okay, so it's actually the way it's written. Okay.
Ms. Taylor.
I just want to make this clear. This is a registration. It's not the VIN number that's on the vehicle. Is it the tag number on the?
Yes.
It's the tag number on the boat.
That's right. On the forward third on the bow, that registration number.
That's the number that we're talking about.
Yes. That's
Again, we now have moved into taking these boats when they're unclaimed and selling them for whatever purpose somebody finds them, whatever you're going to do with it. Again, on your information, if it's registered, do you have lien holder notices? I don't want to sell somebody's boat, and there's a bank out there that's owed money on it.
Currently, ma'am, we do not.
You do not track
No.
that to know if there's a lien holder on it?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Hightower.
Just getting clear, because we kind of have said a couple of different things. Do you have the amendment in front of you?
I do not.
Could we get him a copy of this amendment just so he can know what we're looking at? If you look at the where it has code section 52-7-56, about 4 lines down,
Right.
or 76. Right now it says issuance of certificate of number. That's how it would read. But based on what you're telling me, it seems as though that should be issuance of a registration number.
Yeah,
Is that-
probably certificate should have been struck also, certificate of.
Okay,
and-
so from what you're telling me, y'all's terminology, for that to read correctly, would it be issuance of a registration number?
Correct.
Okay, so we would want to change that to issuance of a
Registration
registration
number.
number.
That's correct.
And then on the third line where it says any such purchaser may obtain then we would strike certificate of and title, and we would do may obtain a registration number. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, we were all saying a couple of different things. I just want us all on the
Yeah, I
same
think
page.
certificate got left in on the titling aspect.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Number 16. Gloria. Pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you clarify for me what on line 14 and 15, you're stating that insurance companies providing insurance to cover damage to vessel becomes abandoned. The person removing or storing such vessel within 7 calendar days of the day will become abandoned vessel. You spoke of the processes of identifying the vessel, what determines abandonment. So what is the time, what determines how long a vessel is abandoned before you start these proceedings?
I would have to look that up, but from recollection, I want to say it's at least 90 days.
Okay. But that's already in rule.
It's in another
somewhere.
code.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to just make sure that we're not getting rid of somebody could be sick in the hospital, don't know that they
Right.
didn't get that notification. And how do you send that notification out? Is it certified, return receipt, or what? Or
It's
just a
usually advertised in the legal organ of the county.
Okay.
Plus, two, we're looking on the back end trying to find the registration number and notify the last legal owner.
Okay, but so we're not hastily doing this.
No,
There's a
ma'am.
process.
It's a long process.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One additional question. Does this apply to both fresh and saltwater vessels?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any other questions of the colonel or the author? GBI, we don't need to hear from them because they feel like they're just home free anyway on this. All right, since there's none, at the discretion of the chair, I'm going to hold this bill until, who was the author of this amendment? Well, out of an abundance of caution, since this was done off of somebody's PC, I think that in the wisdom of the chair that this needs to be gone through by the legislative council and proposed properly. And I think since we've got plenty of time, this might be a good time to appoint a couple of folks to go over there. And I think that Mr. Hightower, you always look like you're eager.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Green,
Mr. Chairman.
since you look like I saw your hand into this.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a possible request that
Yes.
we move the bill forward as it originally without the amendment, and then we can do a new bill for the amendment if we need to at a later date?
I have no problem with that, even though I think that it wouldn't take but just a little bit of wordsmithing with the leg council to probably pass this out as a committee substitute as amended, if we can get a hold of an attorney. The process to
Okay.
amend this.
I
Now,
understand.
the process to amend it, you probably stand a better chance of amending it in the Senate if it goes forward that far than it would be in the Rules Committee.
Well, I was thinking about going ahead and doing it as a separate bill and pass the original bill and then do a separate bill for these particular corrections that need to be made for DNR.
How important is this to DNR, the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, it's just cleaning up a little bit of vague language. On the scale of importance, not very, really.
Tell you what, we've got this meeting room for 30 minutes. Would you like to go over to Leg Council?
Yes.
And we will suspend action in this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that's a mighty wise decision. I appreciate you allowing me to do
Quite
that.
frankly, I'd like to move this bill on forward.
So would I.
Because this
Yeah.
committee's going to have a lot of gunslinging stuff coming down the
Oh,
road. That,
I'm sure.
and I really don't particularly want this one to get mixed in and be collateral damage in the remaining days. I mean, it's sort of, as you said, it's sort of a no-brainer.
It really is that. But
Yeah.
I understand that it was sprung on us suddenly, and I appreciate the chair, and I can get over there and do that immediately.
You
And
can go over to Leg Council, either talk to see if you can get a hold of Jeff or Jill or Terry or whoever, and see if you can get them, and let's do some wordsmithing. And if they want to come back over here and do it, they can do it hand that way. They can do it as a committee substitute, and we'll suspend action on this and the committee for 20 minutes. If they'll bring them back over here sooner than that, then we'll go ahead and get it out.
okay, right away. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, if the committee will just, if the committee will, would you like to go with them and, actually, you might want to go just bring the council back with you, and we can bring, if they bring council back, we'll actually be here quicker than that if they just bring council back over.
Yeah, that would be. Well, don't let them leave their flipping amendment there. Yeah.
That's true. Right ahead, we're going to stand at ease for about 15 minutes. Colonel Weaver, could you come back up? We've lost the author and Representative Green that seemed to be the producers of this handiwork.
Yes, sir.
The general bill, I think everybody understands, that's just sort of a no-brainer. It's just sort of cut and dried. What do y'all want with this added language, well, since we've got counsel here?
Again, just to clean up the title language. We don't issue titles. So as the confusion was, it is a registration number, but according to the code, it does state certificate of number. So just to not give that false indication that we issue titles, which we don't.
So you want to leave the rest of the language, and I'm presuming that what is on this
And the bottom line, it did mention liens. We struck that because we do not check for the liens. We have no way of doing that, and we currently don't do that.
So let me ask you a question then. Say up on Lake Hartwell, somebody's boat gets loose, say this is just a for instance question. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of people that have boats on the lake that, quite frankly, we don't see them until spring of the year.
Right.
Their boat gets loose, it wanders around, beaches itself, does some damage to the boat, mm-hmm. Still belongs to somebody.
Correct.
Somebody finds that boat, lays claim to the boat. If they decide they want to, is there a time frame as to how much time that before they pursue trying to take ownership through the court as an abandoned vehicle?
Again, I could look that date up, but it's at least 90 days, if not more, because that situation, our officer's going to go do a report, and we're going to start backtracking. And it's a slow, methodical process. We don't act on that right away. We do look at all of our databases and try to find a previous owner at some point and start tracking.
And y'all's registration,
yes, sir.
Our registration
we
numbers,
have,
it also has the serial numbers.
The HIN, yes, sir, it does.
That can be cross-referenced, and then
correct.
Produce that information.
We can check, cross-reference that on a national database also.
Mm-hmm. So, David, do you have the proper, would you like to say grace over this amendment?
Well, to be honest, I haven't been able to find, I can't use it with that, and I don't have to do it, so I'll just have to take your word for it that chapter uses the term certificate of number. It seems an odd term, but if you're sure that's what you use there, I would say the first line up there following the code section is not a part of the code. That's the tagline that the publisher puts in, so we don't amend those.
Correct.
Otherwise, I can certainly memorialize that and take all of those.
basically what he's wanting to do is just clean that language up. And David, do you have that language? All right. Mr. Hightower.
Mr. Chairman, when I was there, Legislative Counsel Wayne Allen pulled the code section and looked at it to verify what the terminology was, and I specifically asked him, I said, what is used? And he said it was certificate of number. And I said, so if we run this amendment as they produced it to us, that should be in compliance with the rest of the code. And he looked again, he said, yes, they use certificate of number. I didn't read it myself, but that was my specific question to him, and he said it was used that way.
All right, so then what we're basically doing, clean up language on removing title, changed it to number, and striking that last paragraph, or that last sentence. The Department of Natural Resources shall then issue a certificate of title, which they don't have anyway, which will be free and clear of all liens and encumbrances. Strike that.
Correct.
All right. Questions from the committee? See, all it took was getting expert people over here, David. All right, we have a the chair will entertain a motion at this time so we can get on with this. Mr. Talton. What I need, the posture of this right now is I need a motion. I need a second. Then I'm going to open it up to see if anyone wants to testify, to see if anyone has anything else. And then if there's not, at whatever point that ends, I will then need a motion to amend as a committee substitute. Need a motion. Got a second? We have a second. Now, does anyone wish to be heard? Anyone else has any questions? If not, we have a motion and a second. Is anybody wants to make a motion to amend as a committee substitute? We have a motion to amend this bill as a committee substitute, correct? And a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry it took so long to do something that should have took a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, I want to say with all sincerity, I appreciate the way you handle this, and sometimes we think things are so simple and they're not, and I learned a valuable lesson today myself, and I appreciate your leadership. Thank you, committee.
Thank you, Jimmy. And thank you, David. Thanks, committee.
She got it. She's straight.